In this session, we're going to be downloading the Windows Server 2022 ISO, and it's free and is available on the Microsoft website. Now, to download the Windows Server 2022 ISO, which is available free on the Microsoft website, simply navigate to the URL as shown over here. Once you enter it, you should be able to then download it. It is quite a big file size, roughly about 5 gigs. So it generally takes about anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes, depending on your internet speed. As you can see, I have already got it downloaded on my desktop over here, for which it will be readily available for when I do create my virtual machine within Hyper-V, and I can attach that ISO. In this session, we're going to be running through how we go about enabling Hyper-V, which is proprietary to Microsoft, and it is what enables us to be able to emulate virtual machines on our desktop. Now, in order to run this, you do require at least Microsoft Windows Professional version, or alternatively, the Enterprise version. And we'll run through the lab right now. Now, to check the version of Windows that you've got, what you need to do is navigate to the bottom left-hand corner and search for CMD, which is your command prompt. When you do so, you should then be able to search for a command. You'll just drag over on my other screen, and it's called WinVer. That is going to display the Windows version that you currently got. Now, my one is got the Windows 11 Professional version, which meets the minimum requirements for me to be able to run Hyper-V. So if I close those two windows, in order to enable Hyper-V, what you'll need to do is go to the bottom left corner again and search for Control Panel. Upon doing so, you're then going to need to go to the small icons on the top right and enable the advanced features. To do so, you're going to go to Programs and Features, and you want to switch on the Windows features on or off on the top left corner. Upon doing so, you'll need to check these two boxes for Hyper-V, and make sure you expand it and check the other ones as well within there. Once you do so, you'll be prompted from Windows to do a restart, and upon you doing so, you should then be able to search for Hyper-V and launch it as follows. Within Hyper-V, we now need to create an external virtual switch, and this is what's going to enable our virtual machines to be able to connect to the internet. If we were now to navigate back to the Hyper-V and launch it again, and navigate to the top right pane and go to Virtual Switch Manager, and then over here, we're going to create an external virtual switch. So we select the option for external, create virtual switch, and we're going to call it external internet switch. From the drop downs, I'm going to pick my Wi-Fi adapter, click on apply, yes, and let the changes apply. Click on OK, and that's it. In this session, we're going to be creating the virtual machine for the Windows Server 2022, and then we're going to attach the ISO that we downloaded earlier. To create the virtual machine for Windows Server 2022 within Hyper-V, what we're going to do is navigate to the top right corner, go to New Virtual Machine. This will now launch the new virtual machine wizard. Here is where we've got to go to Next option and name our virtual machine. Here I'm going to call it the UK-DC-server_22. Go to Next. I'm going to pick the latest generation, generation 2. I'm going to allocate 4 gigs. Go to Next. And in terms of the switch, we're going to pick the external internet switch that we created earlier. Go to Next. Leave that as default. Go Next. Now we're going to install the ISO that we downloaded earlier from our desktop, which is going to basically be this one here. It's the eval for server 2022. Go to Next. And when we're happy, click on Finish and let it create the disk. Now it does take a bit of time for it to register. I find in my experience the external internet switch in order for it to connect onto it. So you may find you get a few error messages. Before we continue, by the way, just go to Properties as well from here, Settings, and just make sure that our checkpoints are disabled here, just for the purpose of the lab. Click on apply and OK. We're now going to go to our domain controller and see if we can start it. It may be a bit early, but we'll have a go. Go to start. It will also prompt to press any key. You can either try pressing the space bar or alternatively go to your Control Alt Delete. Now it's loading the Hyper-V and go through the out-of-box experience. It's going to maximize this, or probably minimize it a little bit until it prompts us to. Here we're now going to install the relevant languages. Yeah, it's going to select the English UK, select UK, go to next, install now, let the installation take its course. Over here we do have an option for the relevant operating systems. We're going to be selecting the Windows Server 2022 Data Center Evaluation Desktop Experience. Go to next. Accept the license agreement once we've reviewed this. Instead of selecting the upgrade, we're going to select custom installation. And for the partitioning, we're going to select this and then go to new. Click on apply and we should create 3 partitions. We're going to select this one over here. Go to next. And now let the installation take its course. We're now prompted with the customized settings. Here we've got to set a credential for the administrator account. And finish. If you need to sign in, don't press the Control Alt Delete on your keyboard, as that will lock your machine locally instead of the Hyper-V. Also, we're just going to enlarge the full screen option here. Yes. As you can see, Server Manager will now launch. And we're now presented with our normal Server Manager dashboard. Here we're going to navigate over to the Microsoft's website to download the Windows 11 Enterprise free ISO. You can download it for free from the website, which I'll provide the URL to shortly. Here we're going to navigate to the URL microsoft.com/en-us/evaluate-windows-11-enterprise. That being said, the URL may change, but that's the one at the time of this recording. Now what we need to do is navigate to the download the ISO-Windows 11 Enterprise. This is what enables us to download the Windows 11 ISO for free. It should redirect us to the form for us to fill up in order for us to download the ISO. And just to mention, this is a free trial. So to do so, I'm just going to fill up the details. Once we filled up the form, it should redirect us to the page where we can download the ISO. Here I'm going to select the one that's appropriate for my country, which is English, Great Britain. So I'm going to download that now. It is quite a large file size, so it may take some time. You'll have to kindly be a bit patient. But we'll pause the video and resume once it's downloaded. As you can see, the download is now completed, and what I've done is I've downloaded it to my desktop, as you can see over here. In this session, we're now going to create a Windows 11 virtual machine via Hyper-V, and with the ISO we've just downloaded for Windows 11, we're going to attach that into the virtual machine within Hyper-V. To create the virtual machine, we're going to launch Hyper-V again, and this time round we're going to go to New on the top right pane, Virtual Machine, and we're going to run through the wizard as per before. We're just going to name our virtual machine for Windows 11 a different name. So we're going to call it UK-CL, the client 11, denoting Windows 11. We're going to pick Generation 2. We're going to allocate 4 gigs of RAM. You may hear around that you can allocate less RAM. However, for the purpose of the lab, we generally recommend 4 gigs. Uncheck the use of dynamic memory for the virtual machine. Connect it to the external internet switch from earlier. Leave this as default. We're now going to select the ISO that we selected earlier. That was on our desktop, namely this one over here, the client. Click on open, next. When we're happy with all of that, we will then initiate its creation. Now that we've created our client machine, what we'll need to do is go to the settings of the device, go to security and ensure that we've enabled the TPM, the Trusted Platform module. Furthermore, if we go to our processor, we'll need to make sure we've got sufficient processors as well. As a minimum, we'd recommend 2. I've got quite a big machine, so I'll put 16 for now. Click on apply, OK. And now if we were to start the virtual machine and connect, go to Actions, Control-Alt-Delete, or press spacebar. Go next, install. It will now run for the out-of-box experience. I'm going to accept the license agreements once I've reviewed them. Click on next, customize installation, select the drive 0 unallocated space, select new, apply the default, click on OK. Make sure that's on one of the partitions, namely the last one over here. Go to next and proceed with the installation of the files. We'll now go through the out-of-box experience. Select the relevant country that's appropriate to yourself. Select the relevant keyboard layout. I do not wish to proceed with an additional second keyboard layout, so I'll skip. Let the updates proceed. Okay, go to sign in options. Select domain join instead. Put in your name. Enter a password. Confirm the password. Answer security questions. Pick the appropriate preferences for yourself for location, for your device, for diagnostics, for inking, for tailored experiences, for advertising. As you can now see, Windows is now starting the out-of-box experience. Hi, getting things ready for you. Okay, I'm just going to enlarge your screen, keep it full screen. Just put in my password. And as you can see, we're now connected to the Windows 11 Enterprise Evaluation. It's valid for 90 days, as mentioned in the bottom right corner. Here we're now going to deploy and manage the domain controller on premise. So the first thing that we'll need to do is to tidy up our domain controller, the first thing is to rename our computer. So what we're going to do is go over to here and essentially rename it to UK-DC1, apply and OK. It will prompt us to restart. We just click on close for now. I'm not going to restart just yet. So what we need to do is update our Ethernet settings. So if we go on to the properties and scroll down to IPv6, we just want to uncheck that just to make sure we're using the same IP version 4 protocol. And now we want to keep it, generally we want to keep the IP address to be static, but for the purpose of a lab, we're just going to keep it as IP address automatically. In relation to the DNS, we're just going to use the loopback address. Yes, understand that we're not going to have internet connectivity on this, but just for the purpose of the lab, we're just going to use a loopback address for now. Click on OK. Close that. Okay, now what we're going to do is restart the domain controller now. So we're going to go to Start, Shut, Restart, and we'll put Other Planned, Continue. Okay, if we were to log back in now, we'll now need to navigate to the top right hand corner and install the relevant role-based or featured installations. So for example, if we go to here, add roles and features, we'll now run through the wizard. We'll pick the role-based or feature-based installation. And we want to select our domain controller here. And then from here, we want to select Active Directory Domain Services. Select Add Features. As for additional features, we're just going to leave that unchecked. This also prompts us that we should be able to connect to the Azure AD, or now known as Entra ID. However, that being said, when we install the Active Directory, that should pick it up. Just confirm, install, and let the installation take its course. So one of the things that we notice as well is on the top right corner, we do have a notification. And what we need to do is promote the server to the domain controller for now. Now, just bear in mind that we haven't connected our official domain as we don't have one official one yet. So we're going to create a new forest and we're going to specify the new root domain. So we'll call it as very it365.co.uk. Go to next. And what you'll find is that the version of Windows Server can go back as far as 2008, but what you'll notice is it doesn't go beyond 2016. So we'll leave it as the latest one, 2016 on both of them. We'll leave the boxes checked for the domain name services and the global catalog. The read-only domain controller, we don't really need that selected at this stage for now. We'll set a password for our directory services restore mode in the event we need to restore our Active Directory. Next. And it prompts us that a delegation for the DNS server cannot be created because the authoritative parent zone cannot be found. Well, the thing is, once we install the Active Directory, then this will have it there by default. So we go to next. The NetBIOS name we don't necessarily need, to be honest. But that being said, if your environment has older devices, then it will, enable it to operate. But that being said, we don't generally recommend it. If anything, there's a bit of a security issue. But for the purpose of lab, we'll just enable the NetBIOS domain name. We'll now check the paths just to make sure there's no conflicts or anything like that. That being said, we do have the NTDS folder, which is stored in the root of a C drive, and it contains our database and log file folders. Similarly, we also have the sysvol folders, which is stored in the root C drive and contains things such as a group policy and logon scripts, essentially. Ideally, you want to keep them on separate drives just to make sure that they are optimized. But that being said, we just click on next. You do have a review option, which will essentially show all our pre-selected options that we've just selected. That being said, you can view the PowerShell script and run it via the script. But that being said, it has a summary over here anyway. So now we'll just proceed with its in the prerequisite checks. And you may get a number of issues. The first one being that our domain controller has allowed, essentially an older version. This is because old encryption is supported and it can interact with, the NT. You can control it via group policy if you wish to. The second one is that we didn't assign a static IP address to the DNS. We basically made it automatic, but we done it for the purpose of the lab. And the fact that the delegation for DNS is not set up, but Active Directory will install the DNS, so we have a database essentially. Ultimately, the prerequisite checks have been completed, so we can now proceed with installing, basically carrying out the installation. So it's now starting. Okay, we're about to be signed out. Okay, it's going to reconnect. Now, hopefully, it should have that. We've got VeryIT 365. When we log in. As you can see, we now have the domain VeryIT 365 as required. So if we were to sign back in now, we're now assigned officially into the domain controller. If you also go to our tools and go to our Active Directory users and computers, you can see that we've got our veryit.co.uk domain over here. Also, if we go to our tools and our DNS, go to our UK domain controller, go to our forward lookup, you can see we've got our TCP and UDP. So within our forward lookup zone, so everything is in order. Here we're going to connect the Windows 11 device to the domain. Within Hyper-V, we're going to navigate over to our domain controller. So I'm going to maximize that for a moment. And if we were to navigate over to our command line, we can get the IP address of our DNS. So if we do ipconfig, we can see that the IPv4 address of that DNS is 192.168.0.51. What we're going to do now is manually have the DNS server assignment set to this DNS IP address of 192.168.0.51. So it's going to minimize this for a moment. If we were to navigate to our Windows 11 device and go to our system settings, Firstly, before we begin, what we want to do is just to tidy everything up. If we go over to the About, under System, About, it'll be good just to rename our device. So we're going to rename this PC and we're going to call it our UKCL11. This is so it matches pretty much what's over here. Slowly, let's go back to the other one. So click on Next. It may prompt us to input our administrator credentials. We'll restart it a little bit later. Secondly, we need to go to our control panel and just make sure that we can change the adapter settings to make sure we disable the IPv6. So to do so, we're going to go to our control panel. And we're going to go to our network and sharing center. We're going to change our adapter settings, go into the properties, and make sure that our IPv6 is disabled. Also, if we can go to our IPv4 settings, and we're going to make sure that our IPv4 is set to manually to IPv4 for our DNS server assignment. So to do so, we're going to go to our settings once again. We're going to go to our network and internet settings, to the Ethernet, and we're going to locate our DNS server assignment, which is currently set to automatic. We're going to change that to manual, switch the IPv4 on, and we're going to set it to the IP address of our DNS. Click on Save. And now if we were to go to our CMD, go to ipconfig all, we can see that our DNS server is set to 192.168.0.51. Furthermore, if we were to ping this as well, you can see we are able to ping it as well. Furthermore, if we were to go over, before we connect it to the domain, what I'll do is restart the device, and then we're going to join the machine to our respective domain, namely the veryit365. So before we do anything, we're just going to restart this device. So at least that those settings can apply. So reconnect. So it's still on the device locally at this stage. We're now going to join the Windows 11 device to the domain. So to do so, we're going to search for the settings, go to the bottom, go to the about, select domain or work group, change the domain to VeryIT365, put administrator credentials, let it load up for a moment. And now you can see it's joined to domain. Welcome to VeryIT365 domain. What I found is that you may need to restart it a few times for those changes to replicate as well. And I'm just going to click on OK, close, and restart now. Give it some time for it to kick in. And what you should find is that when we do log in, we should have VeryIT365 at the bottom over here. And as you can see, we're now connecting via the domain this time. In this section, we're going to be running through creating a Microsoft 365 account. Now, there are four main sections we need to cover. Firstly, we need to create a new email account. We'll create a new one, such as a Gmail account in this example. The reason being is this in the event you have a previously assigned Microsoft 365 account that's got a subscription, it may cause a conflict. Once we've done so, we'll then sign up for an Office 365 E5 trial account. It will ask for some card details, but bear in mind you do have a 30-day free trial. Once we do log into the Office 365 portal, we'll then go over to our additional licenses and subscribe to a Microsoft 365 E5 trial. And once we've done that, we'll allocate both of those licenses, the Office 365 E5 and the Microsoft 365 E5, to our account. Here we're going to create a Gmail account firstly. So to do so, what we'll do is navigate to the bottom left corner and search for Chrome. Now you should have Google Chrome installed on your device. If not, then simply navigate to google.com. Search for Chrome. And you should be able to simply download it. I've already got it downloaded. So what I'm going to do now is go to gmail.com. I'm going to create an account. For the purpose here, I'm just using it for personal use. And I'll call it Very IT. I'll call it Very then IT. Just make up a date of birth. And what I'll do, I'll create my own Gmail account. So I'll call it Very IT 365. Okay, and I was going to just have a recovery email address. And as you can now see, it has created a account. It's going to select the Express for now. Actually, we'll go back. Just going to reject all those. Agree the license agreement. I'm going to make a note of my account details. Okay, now it's creating the workspace. Okay, so now it's created the account. We'll just make sure we turn off the smart features, as I don't really like too many of the additional features at this stage. It's only used for the lab. And that's how you create the Gmail account. The next step is we're going to now sign up for the Office 365 E5 license. And to do so, we're going to have to navigate to the Microsoft 365 portal. The URL is at the top over here. So what we're going to do is create a free trial account. So we're going to select try for free. And over here, we're going to associate our new account, which we created, which was obviously it will be different for yourself once you created it, but I'm going to just use this one over here and sign up for it. Okay, so this looks like a new account. This looks like you need to create a new account. Let's get you started. Continue with veryit365gmail.com. Okay, great. Yes, we'll set that up. Now I filled up my details. I'm going to select next. As it mentions on the bottom right corner, it says in order to avoid charges, cancel it by 30 days from now, which will run you through. Now I'm going to prompt it to send me a text message. So send verification code. So essentially get something such as this one over here. Going to populate that back into the screen. Going to call it veryit365. Create a password. I'll make a note of it for myself. Okay, it's creating the account now. Add a payment method so we can utilize the 30-day free trial. Okay, now I'm going to select Start Trial. Going to save a few of my details. Now that I've saved all my details, I'll now proceed with Start Using Office 365 E5 Trial. Thank you for choosing Microsoft 365. Go to Wizard. Let's finish setting things up. So for now, we're not going to add the custom domain. So we will just exit the setup for now. And now we're on admin.microsoft.com/admin portal. If we now go to show all, we can now see that we've got our Office 365 E5 portal access here now. So we have pretty much most of the features. That being said, you also need to get another license as well. So we need to get our Microsoft 365 E5 license as well. Yeah, so I've located the Microsoft 365 E5 license. This one over here. So we're going to go to the details for this one. We're going to sign up for the free trial. And again, we've got a 30-day free trial. So I'll be charged from March the 21st, a month from now. So it's going to place the order for now. Okay, we're now going to close that. So if we now navigate back to our licenses, you can see we've got Microsoft 365 E5 and Office 365 E5. And what we're going to do is make sure that they are both allocated to our account. So this one's already been allocated, the Prabdeep Man at veryit365.onmicrosoft.com, which is a default domain in the event we've not allocated a domain. And then we're also going to go over to the Microsoft 365 E5 license as well and assign it to this account as well. And just leave it as that for now. That being said, in the event you wish to cancel your subscription, all you need to do is go to your products and then click on here, and there'll be an option for you to cancel your subscription for the E5 license for Microsoft 365. Also, if you go to Office 365 E5 again, if you wish to cancel it near to the time, you can cancel your subscription here as well. Here I'm currently logged into the Office 365 admin portal via my account prabdeepman at veryit365.onmicrosoft.com. What I'm going to do now is to create a Azure account. So to do so, what I'm going to do is navigate to the following website, which is portal.azure.com. As you can see, I'm presented with the Welcome to Azure page, and that I can start with an Azure free trial account. You do get a $200 free credit towards the Azure products and services, plus 12 months of popular free services. What I'm going to do is click on the start over here. And I'm going to start with free. And this will redirect me to the Azure sign up page for the free trial. As you can see, I've still got my related account to the Office 365 admin portal one as well. So yes, I agree to the customer agreement. Do review it where applicable for yourself. And once you're happy, then you can proceed to the next step. So just going to populate my contact number. Okay, I'm just going to get it to text me. So I'm populate the code in my phone. Verify code. Okay, so I'm going to use my card. As mentioned earlier, just make sure you've got the relevant card that's appropriate that you wish to authorize with. As mentioned before, this is a free trial before they will start charging us. So just confirm my information. Okay, so you can now see that I'm now ready to start with Azure. Go to my Azure portal. And there's just more of a wizard that I can navigate to. If I go home and go to my admin page, you can now see that I have all the relevant subscriptions. If I go to this, I've got an Azure subscription over here with all the relevant features that I require. We're now going to download Azure AD Connect. This way, it will synchronize between the on-premise Azure Active Directory and the Active Directory, or Entra ID now it's called, via the Azure Portal. So with the Hyper-V, I'm going to navigate back to my domain controller, namely Server 2022. Within here, I'm going to launch a browser, and I'm going to navigate to the following link in the URL. I'm going to download the Azure AD Connect, and this is what's going to establish the connection between on-premise Active Directory as well as the cloud version of Active Directory, known as Azure AD, but now been renamed as Entra ID. So we'll just initiate the download, open the file, let the wizard do its installation. As you can now see, Azure AD is now launching. This should now start the Azure AD Connect wizard. We're going to go to check the box to agree the license terms and privacy notice, select continue, and we'll run through the express settings. So the first thing for us to do is to populate our credentials. So this is the global administrator credentials that are used for the Azure Active Directory. As you may have noticed, this will be this one over here. The one that I've used is prabdeepman at veryit365.onmicrosoft.com. So that's the credential I'll be using. Now I need to populate my local admin account. That will basically be veryit365 / administrator. Put my password in. It will now say it's not verified. So if I were to go to my domain, which I've got on my SiteGround, namely this one over here, you can see that I do have the domain, and within the DNS entry, I put in the text record of this file over here. That entry can be found over here. So to get to that, I had to go over to my Entra ID, custom domain name, going into the veryit365.co.uk, and make sure that was verified. It did ask for a TXT record, which I then had to populate within my domain name, which I got from SiteGround, namely this one over here. So I had to purchase a domain from SiteGround, go into the DNS settings, and in the text record, I had to enter this entry over here. If I now go back into my portal, you can see it says verified. So if I now was to go back to the wizard, hopefully it should detect it. So we'll go previous and go next. It now shows it as being verified. If I go next, this will now initiate the wizard. So what we're going to do is select install. As you can now see, Azure AD Connect configuration succeeded. The synchronization process has been initiated. If we now go to exit, if we were to navigate over to the portal.azure.com and navigate to Microsoft Entra Connect, you'll see an option for Connect Sync, and it's over here. You can see that the sync status is enabled.